All right, so 6.8, solving equations by factoring. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with factoring it and then find out what number that x could be. So in the case of this first example, they already did the factoring for us. That's nice. All we have to do is solve it. So when we do that, we're going to say, well, in order to get 0 as an answer, I think back to what I did in primary. 5 times 0 equals 0. 0 times 2 equals 0. I need something of a 0 to multiply to make it equal to 0. So either this piece has to be a 0 or this piece. So just kind of like the last chapter where we broke it up, we're going to break it up again, and we call this the roots when we get the answer here. So this has to be 0 or this has to be 0. This one's easy. I go up plus the 7, so x equals 7. So one of my roots is 7. Over here, solving not so bad. Subtract the 1 from both sides. This becomes the 0. 5x equals -1. Divide by a 5. X equals -1/5. Now I know you were waiting for this. We're going to do a check. How we do a check is we're going to go back into the problem and we're going to plug it in and see if we get 0. So let's start with the 7. 5 times 7 plus 1. 7 minus 7 equals 0. I notice right here, I'm not even going to do this math. 5 times 7 plus 1. 7 minus 7 is 0. And 0 times any number in the world gives me 0. So we're going to take it now. We're going to plug it in with the -1/5. So it's 5 times -1/5 plus 1. And -1/5 minus 7 equals 0. Not a big deal. Watch what happens. Here, 5 divided by 5 is 1, so I'm left with -1 plus 1. I'm not even going to do the math over here. And a -1 plus a +1 is a 0, and 0 times any mess in this world equals 0. So I'm good to go. Let's try another one. So my roots were 7 and -1/5. So let's go down here. Looking at this problem, it's already done the factoring for us. So we split it because we need 1 to equal 0. Let's solve. Minus the 1 from both sides. That goes away. So I'm left with 4t equals -1. Divide by 4. T equals -1/4. So one of my roots is -1/4. Over here, add the 2 to both sides. I got the 0. I get 3t equals 2. Divide by 3. So t equals 2/3. And my other root is 2/3. If I go and do my check, I know they're fractions, but remember it's really basic. It's going to actually go away right off the bat. So let's look at the -1/4. So 4 times -1/4 plus 1. 3 times -1/4 minus 2. I'm seeing right here a real easy one to do. 4 divided by 4 is 1, and I get -1 plus 1. I'm not going to do this math over here. Don't want to. Because I see here this equals 0. So 0 times all this mess equals 0. Let's try the other one. So we're going to use 2/3. 4 times 2/3 plus 1. And 3 times 2/3 minus 2. Here, 3 divided by 3 is 1, and I'm noticing 2 minus 2. So I'm going to just rewrite here neatly. I'm not going to do that math. 2 minus 2, and I ran out of room, but 2 minus 2 is 0, and 0 times this equals 0. This time we have to actually do the factoring before we solve. So we go through all our steps. We say, is there anything that we can take out in common? No. There's 3 terms. We use our box. Multiplies together and gives me a 6, and adds together and gives me a 3, or 5. That would be 3 and 2. So I go, x squared is x times x. I know that. X and x are the same here. 3 and 3 would be the same here. This would be 2x, this would be 3x, and I get my 5. So I end up with x plus 2, x plus 3, remember if there's no sign it's a plus, equals 0. Now we go through the steps of x plus 2 equals 0, x plus 3 equals 0. Subtract the 2, and we get x equals negative 2, so 1 root is negative 2. X equals negative 3. 1 root is negative 3. Mrs. Barker's a mean person. And we're going to do our checks. X squared. So we're going to try negative 2 squared plus 5 times negative 2 plus 6 equals 0. Negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4. Positive times a negative is a negative 10. Plus 6 equals 0. Well, positive 4 and a positive 6 will give me 10 minus 10, and that equals 0. Let's try the other one. X squared, so negative 3 squared plus 5 times negative 3 plus 6 equals 0. Negative 3 times negative 3 is a positive 9. Negative times a positive is a negative. 5 times 3 is 15. If I go, 6 plus 9 is 15 minus 15, it equals 0. Let's try another one. Again, we have to do the factoring. So x squared goes here, minus 6 goes here. This is x times x, and then I look and I go, what multiplies together gives me negative 6? Adds together and gets negative 1. I'm going to try negative 3 and positive 2. So 2, this is the x. So x, x, x. This is an x, this is an x. This is a negative 3, this is a negative 3. In this box we get 2x, in this box we get negative 3x. Add them. Well, one's negative, one's positive. We subtract. 3 is bigger, 3 is negative, so it's negative 1x. So I'm in the right spot. X and a positive 2, x and a negative 3. Now split them up. 2x minus 3 equals 0. Subtract the 2 from both sides, so x is negative 2. We got one of our roots. X is 3. We got our other root. Do our checks. X squared, negative 2 squared minus negative 2. Be careful with your negatives there. A negative 2 squared is a positive 4. Negative times a negative is a positive 2 minus 6. Add the positives together. 4 plus 2 is 6. Minus 6 equals 0. Coming over here, but using the second root, 3 squared minus 3 minus 6 equals 0. 9 minus 3 minus 6. Well, 9 minus 3 is 6. Minus 6 gives us our 0. Now there's another difference on these. You'll notice there's no 0. There's a number over here. We want a 0. So we want to move that number over. And we go back to solving equations. We can do that by subtracting from both sides. So I'm going to have to write over here, 56 minus 56 is 0. And over here I have m squared minus m minus 56. Now I put it in here, negative 56, and I need something that multiplies together and gives me negative 56. When it adds together, it gets negative 1. Let's try negative 8 and positive 7. So m squared is m and m. And you should be getting used to this by now. These ones are m's. These are negative 8's. So in this box I get 7m. This box I get negative 8m. I subtract because they're two different, or one's positive, one's negative. I get 1. 8's bigger and 8's negative, so I get negative 1. So I get m plus 7, m minus 8. Split them up. Now it's kind of something, and I know you need to be really, really careful about just thinking, oh, I know the answer. Subtract it from both sides, add it to both sides, and make sure you're right. So root number 1 is negative 7. Add the 8, add the 8 to both sides, m equals 8. And my roots are negative 7 and positive 8. Doing my check, m squared minus m equals 56. That's where we started. So we put in negative 7 squared minus negative 7. Negative 7 squared is 49, minus minus is a plus, 7 equals 56, and it does. So add in the 8. 8 squared minus 8 equals 56. 8 squared is 64, minus 8 does equal 56. Last problem we're going to do together. Looking here again, whoops, there's no 0 here, so we're going to subtract that 28 from both sides, and we get x squared minus 3x minus 28, and over here we should get a 0. Make sure it's going to come up as a 0, because if it doesn't, you've made a mistake. X squared is x and x, but I need two numbers that multiply together and give me negative 28, but when I add them together, I get negative 3. Let's try negative 7 and positive 4. So 4 goes here, x's go here, x's go here, negative 7 goes here, and in this box we get 4x, in this box we get negative 7. Negative 7 with a positive 4, subtract gives me 3. It's a negative because of that 7, and that's what I wanted. So x plus 4, x minus 7. X plus 4 equals 0, x minus 7 equals 0. Subtract the 4, so x is negative 4. Add the 7, x is 7. So my roots are negative 4 and 7. And when I plug them in, let's see if it works. X squared minus 3x equals 28. Start with negative 4 squared minus 3 times negative 4 equals 28. This is 16. Negative times a negative is a positive 12, and that does equal 28. Try it now with the 7. 7 squared minus 3 times 7 equals 28. I get 49 minus 21, and that does equal 28. Make that an 8.